Have you ever drifted toward sleep, your mind wandering through the corridors of time, brushing against stories that history has nearly forgotten? Imagine a world where the line between myth and reality blurs, where whole civilizations vanish without a trace, leaving behind only whispers carved in stone and riddles buried beneath the sands of centuries. These are not just tales to be studied, they are invitations to wonder, to lose yourself in the profound mysteries that humanity has woven across the ages. Tonight, we're not only revisiting history, we're stepping into its quietest, most contemplative corners, letting the distant past lull us toward rest. Welcome, fellow history enthusiasts and sleep seekers. I'm your sleep historian, and this is a place where curiosity meets calm, where the grand puzzles of ancient worlds unfold gently, like a map leading not to answers but to deeper, richer questions. Each story we explore is more than a historical account. It's a chance to quiet the noise of the present and immerse ourselves in something timeless, something greater. Whether you're here for fascination or for rest, you belong here. This isn't just a history lesson, it's a retreat for the mind and a sanctuary for the soul. In the minutes ahead, we'll wander through the silent halls of lost empires, tracing the footsteps of people who dreamed as we dream, who built wonders we still struggle to understand. We'll uncover secrets that have slumbered for millennia, stories wrapped in layers of legend and truth. There will be no rush, no pressure, only the steady, rhythmic unspooling of mysteries meant to intrigue your imagination and cradle your thoughts toward tranquility. So settle in, dim the lights, and let your mind drift. Wherever this journey takes us, the destination is the same, a place of curiosity, wonder, and deep, restorative peace. There's something uniquely soothing about exploring the remnants of those who came before us, about tracing the outlines of societies that flourished and faded long ago. Think of the Maya, whose vast cities and towering pyramids were gradually reclaimed by the jungles of Central America, leaving behind intricate calendars and enigmatic glyphs that hint at a profound understanding of the cosmos. Or consider the Indus Valley civilization, one of the world's largest early societies, which thrived for centuries with remarkably advanced urban planning and sanitation, only to vanish so completely that we still cannot read their script or fully understand why their bustling cities fell silent. These are not just historical footnotes, they are profound mysteries that invite us to wonder, to let our minds stretch across time and space, contemplating the quiet echoes of human achievement and the inevitable passage of all things. As we wander through these ancient stories tonight, there's no need to search for definitive answers. The true comfort lies in the mystery itself, in the gentle hum of curiosity that replaces the day's worries with grander, more timeless questions. Let the weight of your eyelids grow heavier with each tale, each unsolved riddle a stepping stone further from the present and deeper into a state of peaceful reflection. Picture yourself wrapped in the softest blanket, the room dimly lit, as we explore the silent, stone-laden pathways of Göbekli Tepe, a temple complex in Turkey so ancient it predates pottery, writing, and even the wheel, a sight that challenges everything we thought we knew about the dawn of civilization. Who built it and why, we may never know for certain, and somehow that uncertainty is a perfect companion for rest. Every archaeological wonder we uncover is a testament to humanity's enduring desire to create, to believe, and to leave a mark, even if that mark is eventually shrouded in shadow. From the massive, haunting Moai statues of Easter Island, gazing inland with mysterious purpose, to the abandoned cliff dwellings of Mesa Verde, which hold the whispers of an ancient community's daily life, these places remind us that history is not a dry record of facts but a living, breathing narrative filled with emotion, struggle, and wonder. There is a deep calm in acknowledging that some secrets were never meant to be fully uncovered, that the past guards its mysteries closely, allowing us the freedom to simply ponder without pressure. So as you settle in, let the stories wash over you. There's no quiz at the end, no need to remember every detail. Just allow the rhythm of these age-old puzzles to guide you toward a place of quiet curiosity and profound relaxation. Our journey begins in the golden sands of Egypt with a structure so monumental and perfectly engineered that it defies the very logic of its time, the Great Pyramid of Giza. For over 3,800 years, it stood as the tallest man-made structure on Earth, a silent, stoic sentinel watching empires rise and fall. Built as a tomb for the pharaoh Khufu around 2560 BCE, its scale is almost incomprehensible. It is composed of approximately 2.3 million limestone blocks, each weighing an average of 2.5 tons, with some of the interior granite slabs weighing up to 80 tons. To simply place one of these blocks every day, it would have taken 639 years to complete. Yet, the prevailing archaeological evidence suggests it was finished in just 20. This staggering discrepancy is the very heart of the mystery, a mathematical and logistical puzzle that has captivated and confounded scholars for centuries. How was such a feat of engineering accomplished? Theories range from the widely accepted to the wonderfully speculative. The most common explanation involves a massive, dedicated workforce using wooden sleds, ropes, and earthen ramps that coiled around the rising structure, allowing workers to drag the heavy stones into place. As the pyramid grew taller, these ramps would have been extended and heightened, a monumental construction project in its own right. Other, more unconventional ideas suggest the ancient Egyptians might have possessed a lost knowledge of acoustics or even anti-gravity, using harmonic resonance to levitate the massive stones into position. While there is little evidence for such fantastical methods, their persistence speaks to our deep fascination with this ancient wonder and a desire to explain the seemingly inexplicable. But the mysteries are not confined to its outer shell. Deep within its core, the pyramid holds secrets in its very bones. For a long time, it was believed to contain only 3 known chambers: the king's chamber, the queen's chamber, and an unfinished subterranean room. Yet, modern technology has peeled back the stone layers to reveal there is far more than meets the eye. Using non-invasive techniques like muon radiography, which essentially creates an X-ray image of the pyramid using cosmic rays, scientists have recently discovered several large, previously unknown voids. One, dubbed the Big Void, is a massive cathedral-sized space located directly above the Grand Gallery. Its purpose is a complete enigma. Is it a structural relief chamber, a hidden treasury, or something else entirely that we have not yet even conceived? Each new discovery peels back one layer of the mystery, only to reveal another waiting patiently beneath. The precision of its construction is another layer of the puzzle that continues to astound engineers and astronomers. The pyramid is aligned to the 4 cardinal directions with an accuracy within 1/15 of a single degree. Its base is almost a perfect square, with the sides differing in length by less than 5.8 inches, a negligible margin of error for a structure measuring over 756 feet per side. Some researchers propose that the ancient builders used the circumpolar stars to achieve this near-perfect alignment, while others suggest a method based on the fall and spring equinoxes. This incredible accuracy suggests a sophisticated understanding of mathematics, geometry, and celestial movements that seems almost anachronistic for its time. So as you lie there, let your mind wander through these hidden passages and silent, grand galleries. Picture the countless hands that carved and placed each stone, their names and stories lost to time, their achievement standing as a timeless testament to human ingenuity. There is a profound comfort in pondering such a vast and enduring mystery, a gentle hum of awe that quiets the more immediate concerns of the day. The pyramid does not ask for answers, it simply exists, an eternal question mark etched against the desert sky, inviting us to wonder and then to rest. While the Great Pyramid served as a final resting place for a pharaoh, its purpose stretches far beyond that of a mere tomb, reaching into the heavens themselves. The ancient Egyptians saw no separation between the earthly and the celestial. Their entire worldview was a beautiful, intricate tapestry weaving together the divine, the astronomical, and the mortal. The pyramids were the ultimate expression of this belief, acting as colossal conduits designed to bridge the gap between the king's soul and the eternal stars. They were not just buildings, they were machines for resurrection, stone prayers aimed at the cosmos, and perhaps the most sophisticated astronomical instruments ever created by an ancient civilization. This celestial connection is etched into the very alignment of the Giza Plateau. The three main pyramids are not arranged randomly. They mirror the three stars of Orion's belt in the constellation Orion, which the Egyptians associated with Osiris, the god of the afterlife and rebirth. This mirroring is not a rough approximation but a precise, scaled-down map of the night sky on the ground, a concept known as astromancy. The Milky Way, in their belief, was seen as a heavenly Nile river, and the pyramids served as the pharaoh's landing point, a launching pad for his soul to begin its journey to join the imperishable stars, the Aku, in the afterlife. The narrow shafts emanating from the king's and queen's chambers are not ventilation channels as was once thought, but are precisely angled to frame specific stars at specific times. One shaft targets the constellation of Orion, while another is aligned with the pole star Thuban, which held that position in 2500 BCE, acting as a fixed, unchanging point in the northern sky for the pharaoh's spirit to navigate by. The mathematical genius embedded in the pyramid's dimensions further suggests a knowledge that transcends simple construction. The ratio of the pyramid's perimeter to its height is remarkably close to 2 times pi, the mathematical constant. This implies the builders might have intentionally encoded this fundamental relationship into the structure's geometry. Furthermore, the side length divided by the height gives a number very near the golden ratio, approximately 1.618, a proportion often found in nature and art that is considered aesthetically perfect. Whether this was deliberate or a happy coincidence of their chosen measurement system remains hotly debated, but the presence of these constants adds another profound layer of mystery. It hints at a civilization that possessed a deep, perhaps even intuitive, understanding of the mathematical principles that underpin our universe, principles they sought to physically manifest on a gargantuan scale. Visualize for a moment the scene on the Giza Plateau over 4,500 years ago. As the sun set and the vast, unpolluted desert sky darkened into a blanket of countless stars, priests and astronomers would have taken their positions. They weren't just stargazers, they were timekeepers, navigators, and spiritual interpreters. The smooth, gleaming white casing stones of the pyramid, now mostly gone, would have acted like a colossal mirror under the moonlight, its silhouette a perfect black triangle against the starry expanse. The carefully angled shafts inside would have framed specific celestial bodies, their light penetrating the deep interior to illuminate the sacred chambers at precise moments, perhaps during solstices or equinoxes, turning the silent stone interior into a dynamic cosmic clock. This was a place where ritual and science were one, where the movements of the heavens directly informed the most important spiritual ceremonies, guiding the soul of a god-king on its final, most important voyage. The pyramid was a permanent, indestructible link between the order of the cosmos and the order of the kingdom, a guarantee that the cycle of life, death, and rebirth would continue for all eternity. Yet standing guard before these great pyramids is a figure of even deeper and more personal mystery, the Great Sphinx, carved not from assembled blocks but from the living bedrock of the Giza Plateau itself. This colossal statue with the body of a lion and the head of a pharaoh has silently watched the desert for millennia. Its weathered, enigmatic face, often partially shrouded by the sands of time, seems to hold secrets far older than the pyramids it protects. One of its most famous features is, ironically, its absence, the Sphinx's missing nose. A popular myth spread for centuries claims that Napoleon's soldiers used the statue's face for target practice with their cannons. However, historical drawings from decades before Napoleon's Egyptian campaign clearly show the Sphinx already without its nose, debunking this dramatic tale. A more plausible explanation comes from a medieval Arab historian who recorded that a Sufi zealot defaced the statue in the 14th century in an act of iconoclasm, outraged that local peasants were making offerings to the Sphinx for a better harvest. This act of vandalism, though centuries old, is a mere scratch on the surface of the monument's long and turbulent history. The mysteries extend far above its damaged visage, deep into the earth beneath its massive limestone pores. For generations, rumors and accounts have swirled of hidden chambers and tunnels winding beneath the Sphinx. In the late 1980s, seismic surveys and studies of the groundwater levels around the statue appeared to identify anomalies, potential cavities or passages hidden from view. While many mainstream Egyptologists maintain these are likely natural fissures in the limestone bedrock, the possibility of man-made chambers persists, fueled by ancient legends and more recent, if controversial, research. The most famous of these alleged passages is an entryway located high on the Sphinx's hindquarters, which was allegedly sealed after being explored in the 1920s. Another is a shaft located directly between its paws, discovered during excavations in the 19th century, which leads down to a dead end. The true extent of this subterranean network remains one of Egyptology's most tantalizing questions. Could these tunnels be structural or perhaps part of an initiation ritual for priests? Might they lead to a hidden hall of records, a legendary library of ancient knowledge said to be buried beneath the Sphinx, as some alternative theories suggest? The statue offers no answers, only the silent, stoic promise of secrets yet to be uncovered. This leads to the most profound and heated debate surrounding the guardian of the plateau, its true age. Conventional archaeology attributes the Sphinx to the pharaoh Khafre, the builder of the second pyramid at Giza, dating its construction to around 2500 BCE. This attribution is based largely on its proximity to Khafre's Valley Temple and a fragmented diorite statue of the pharaoh found in a pit nearby. However, a growing body of geological evidence challenges this timeline, suggesting the statue's erosion tells a much older story. Geologists point to the deep, weathered fissures and undulating channels carved into the Sphinx's enclosure walls. This pattern of erosion, they argue, is characteristic of water, specifically heavy rainfall, not the wind and sand abrasion one would expect in the arid Sahara Desert. For such significant water erosion to occur, the Sphinx would have to have been exposed to a much wetter climate, the kind last seen in Egypt thousands of years before the reign of Khafre, during the Neolithic subpluvial period which ended around 5,000 years ago. If this theory holds, the Sphinx could be far older, a relic from a pre-pharaonic civilization that has since vanished from history, its original face perhaps recarved by a later dynasty. So as the moon rises over the Giza plateau, casting long, dramatic shadows across the Sphinx's weathered face, we are left to contemplate a sentinel whose story is far from complete. It is a monument that embodies the very essence of mystery, a fusion of human artistry and natural forces, of accepted history and compelling alternative possibilities. Its silent gaze seems to look not just across the desert, but across vast, unimaginable stretches of time, holding within its stone heart the whispers of climates and cultures long gone. There is a deep, almost haunting comfort in this mystery, a reminder that some stories are written not in ink but in stone and time, and that their final chapters have yet to be read. But our journey doesn't end in the sands of Egypt. Far across the Pacific Ocean, on one of the most remote inhabited islands on Earth, another stone mystery silently endures. Let's sail over 1,200 miles from the nearest speck of land to the volcanic shores of Rapa Nui, better known as Easter Island. Here, nearly 900 massive stone figures called moai stand with their backs to the sea, their hollow eyes gazing eternally inland across the rolling green hills. Carved from compressed volcanic ash, these statues average 13 feet tall and weigh a staggering 14 tons each, with the largest, named Paro, standing at 33 feet and weighing over 80 tons. The immediate, overwhelming question that has perplexed visitors for centuries is a practical one. How did a people with no metal tools, no wheels, and no large animals to provide draft power move these colossal monoliths from the quarry to their final ceremonial platforms known as ahu, sometimes over distances of more than 10 miles? Theories on their transport are as fascinating as they are varied. For a long time, the prevailing image was one of immense toil, with hundreds of islanders slowly inching the statues along using a system of log rollers. However, this idea was challenged by researchers who wondered how a society on a small, isolated island could have sustainably provided the vast amounts of timber needed for such an endeavor. A more recent and compelling theory, supported by experimental archaeology, suggests a method that feels almost like a ritual itself: walking by using sturdy ropes and a team of people working in a coordinated rocking motion. It's possible to literally walk a moai statue upright across the landscape. Experiments have shown that with 3 teams and a master rope handler, a concrete replica could be moved in this way by just 18 people. This method not only seems plausible but also aligns with local oral histories that have long stated the statues walked to their ahu. This elegant solution transforms the act of transport from mere brute labor into a skilled, rhythmic, and perhaps even sacred procession. The creation of the moai was far more than an engineering project. It was the very heart of the Rapa Nui spiritual and social world. The islanders believed in a concept called mana, a spiritual power and prestige that could be inherited through ancestry. They held that the living could draw upon this power from their forebears to ensure prosperity, fertility, and good fortune. The moai were not standalone deities but physical representations of powerful, deified ancestors. By carving their faces with prominent features and placing them on ahu platforms along the coast, the living community believed they were harnessing the mana of these ancestors, directing their protective gaze over the village and its resources. The final act of placing a round, red stone cylinder called a pukau on top of the moai's head was likely the culmination of this ritual, perhaps representing a top knot of hair, a symbol of status in Polynesian culture. Each completed statue was a conduit between the spiritual and physical realms, a permanent guardian ensuring the community's survival. This deep spiritual drive, however, may have also set the stage for a profound societal collapse. For generations, the narrative was one of ecological suicide, a cautionary tale of a people who recklessly deforested their own island to move statues, leading to war, famine, and cultural disintegration. While there is truth to the environmental decline, the full story is far more complex and nuanced. Paleobotanical evidence shows that the island's famous palm forests did indeed vanish, likely due to a combination of overharvesting for transport logs and the arrival of the Polynesian rat, which ate the seeds needed for new trees to grow. This deforestation led to severe soil erosion and the loss of raw materials for building fishing canoes, drastically reducing the food supply. But rather than a sudden, violent downfall, the decline was probably a gradual shift. As resources became scarcer, the old system of clan competition through statue construction became unsustainable. The spiritual authority of the moai was challenged, and a new religious cult centered on the birdman deity Makemake emerged. The once unified culture fragmented, and the statues, symbols of the old order, were toppled in periods of conflict. Today, the silent moai stand as a powerful monument to both human ingenuity and the delicate balance between a society and its environment. They remind us of the incredible things we can achieve when driven by faith and tradition, but also of the unintended consequences that can follow. As you listen to the sound of waves crashing against this distant shore in your mind, let the mystery of these stone giants wash over you. There is a profound peace in accepting that we may never know every detail of their story, that their silent watch over the island holds secrets that are theirs alone. It's a gentle reminder that all civilizations, no matter how grand, are part of a larger tapestry of nature and time, and that there is a certain tranquility in simply bearing witness to their enduring, enigmatic presence. To fully appreciate these silent sentinels, we must understand not just how they were moved, but why they were created in the first place. The act of carving a moai was a profound cultural and spiritual undertaking, a physical manifestation of belief that connected the entire community. Using only hand-held basalt stone picks known as toki, generations of Rapa Nui artisans patiently chiseled the figures directly from the soft volcanic tuff of the Rano Raraku quarry. This was not a rushed process, it was a sacred craft passed down through families, with each strike of the toki imbuing the stone with a layer of intention and reverence. The quarry itself is a breathtakingly eerie landscape, dotted with nearly 400 statues in various states of completion, some still attached to the bedrock, as if the workers simply laid down their tools one day and never returned. This fossilized moment in time gives us a unique window into their meticulous process, from the initial outline to the final detail work on the elongated ears, strong brow ridges, and pursed lips that give each moai its solemn, powerful presence. Once freed from the quarry wall, the statue was carefully lowered into a prepared pit, allowing the sculptors to complete the intricate back detailing before the arduous journey to its coastal altar began. But the moai was not considered complete until it received its most distinctive feature, the pukao, a massive cylindrical topknot made of red scoria, a volcanic rock quarried from a separate site at Punapau. These imposing cylinders, which could weigh up to 12 tons, were painstakingly rolled and lifted to perch atop the moai's head. The vibrant red color was deeply significant, likely symbolizing status, power, or perhaps the hair tied in a topknot, a common practice among Rapa Nui men. The addition of the pukao and the ceremonial placement of coral and stone eyes into the statue's eye sockets were the final acts of animation, believed to awaken the mana within, transforming the stone from a mere representation into a living vessel of ancestral power. Under the expansive canopy of a starry Pacific night, the cultural significance of these figures would have been palpable. The moai were far more than art. They were the focal point of a complex societal system based on ancestral worship and communal identity. Each clan competed to build larger and more elaborate ahu platforms, believing that doing so would harness greater spiritual power for their community, ensuring bountiful harvests from the land and plentiful fish from the sea. This was a culture that invested its entire physical and spiritual energy into these stone giants, a testament to their unwavering belief in the connection between the living, the dead, and the land they inhabited. The silent, watchful moai lining the coast were a constant reminder of that bond, their stone gazes overseeing the daily life of the village and serving as eternal guardians of the people's history and heritage. Leaving the solitary gaze of the moai, our journey now takes us across the globe to the windswept Salisbury Plain in England, where the ancient stone circle of Stonehenge has captivated the human imagination for millennia. Unlike the monolithic figures of Rapa Nui, this is a structure of many stones arranged in a series of concentric circles and horseshoes, a puzzle whose pieces were brought from astonishing distances. The largest of these, the mighty sarsen stones, were hauled from the Marlborough Downs 20 miles to the north. These sandstone giants weigh up to 50 tons each and were erected to form the iconic outer circle and central trilithons, two vertical stones capped by a horizontal lintel. The engineering prowess required to shape these stones, using only other rocks as hammers, and then to raise them and perfectly slot the lintels into place using sophisticated woodworking joints, is a testament to a highly organized and determined society. Yet the greater mystery lies with the smaller, inner circle of bluestones. These rocks, each weighing up to 4 tons, have a geological fingerprint that traces them all the way to the Preseli Hills in West Wales, a staggering distance of over 180 miles. How did Neolithic people 5,000 years ago accomplish this monumental feat of transport? The prevailing theory suggests a combination of land and water routes. The stones were likely quarried and then dragged on wooden sledges across the rugged Welsh landscape to the shore. From there, they might have been loaded onto rafts and sailed along the Welsh coast and up the River Avon before embarking on a final overland leg to the plain. This incredible journey, undertaken with sheer muscle power and rudimentary technology, speaks to a motivation that was far more than practical. It was undoubtedly driven by a deep and powerful spiritual significance, a belief that these particular stones from that specific location held a power worth an almost unimaginable effort. This immense effort hints at a purpose that transcended the ordinary. For centuries, observers have noted that the architecture of Stonehenge is precisely aligned with the movements of the sun. At dawn on the summer solstice, the longest day of the year, the rising sun crests the horizon directly over the heel stone, and its rays shine straight into the heart of the monument, illuminating the altar stone. Conversely, at sunset on the winter solstice, the shortest day, the sun sets perfectly framed within the great trilithon in the center. This was not a coincidence. For an agricultural society, these solar events were of paramount importance, marking the changing seasons and dictating the cycles of planting and harvest. Stonehenge likely served as a colossal celestial calendar, a Stone Age observatory where priests or elders could predict these vital turning points of the year with absolute precision, reinforcing their authority and providing a rhythmic, reliable structure to the lives of their people. But was it only a calendar? Other compelling theories suggest it was a place of profound ritual and healing. The discovery of a large number of human remains in the area showing signs of traumatic injury and disease has led some archaeologists to propose that Stonehenge was believed to possess curative powers, a Neolithic Lourdes where the sick and injured would pilgrimage from across Britain in hope of a miracle. The bluestones themselves, when struck, produce a distinctive, loud clanging sound, and this sonic property may have been integral to healing rituals, their echoes thought to drive out evil spirits causing illness. This idea of a center for healing connects powerfully with the Herculean task of bringing the bluestones from Wales. If they were believed to hold unique medicinal or spiritual properties, then no distance would have been too great to traverse to harness their power. Standing in the presence of these stones today, one cannot help but feel the weight of their silent history. They have witnessed countless ceremonies, the comings and goings of generations, and the slow turning of the heavens above. The true, complete purpose of Stonehenge may forever remain just beyond our grasp, a complex fusion of astronomical observation, ancestral worship, and healing ritual, its meaning evolving over the centuries it was in use. This very ambiguity is its gift to us. It allows our minds to wander through the possibilities, to picture the processions of chanting people, the sounds of ringing stone, and the silent awe as the sun and moon aligned with the carefully placed pillars. It is a reminder that our ancestors looked at the same sky we do and sought, just as we do, to find their place within the vast, beautiful, and mysterious cosmos. The true marvel of Stonehenge lies not just in its final, majestic form, but in the inconceivable effort of its assembly. We are left to wonder how a society with no draft animals, no wheels, and only simple stone and wood tools could possibly have maneuvered these multi-ton monoliths into their precise positions. The transportation of the massive sarsen stones, each one a 50-ton colossus from the Marlborough Downs 20 miles away, would have been a logistical masterpiece. Archaeological experiments suggest the most plausible method involved a sledge, a sturdy wooden platform upon which a single stone was painstakingly loaded. This sledge would then have been dragged along a track of greased wooden rollers by a large team of people pulling with ropes. the process would have been agonizingly slow, a coordinated feat of immense communal strength, with teams working in shifts to inch each stone mile after grueling mile across the undulating landscape. Imagine the scene, the rhythmic chants of hundreds of workers, the groaning of thick hemp ropes under unimaginable strain, and the slow, deliberate progression of a piece of the earth itself toward its sacred destination. Once on site, an even more delicate operation began, raising the stones. To erect one of the giant uprights, the builders likely first dug a large, steep-sided pit, sloping one end to serve as a ramp. The stone was then carefully eased into this hole, perhaps using a system of levers and weights, with teams of people hauling from the opposite side to gradually pull it into a vertical position. The empty space around the base was then packed tightly with crushed chalk and rubble to secure it forever. But the most mind-boggling feat was yet to come, placing the massive lintel stones atop the verticals to create the iconic trilithons. This may have been achieved by building a huge earth and timber ramp against the two standing stones, then dragging the lintel slowly up this incline until it could be carefully levered and nudged into place. The sophistication is breathtaking. The lintels were even fashioned with mortise and tenon joints, a woodworking technique, pegs carved on the top of the uprights slotting into holes in the bottom of the lintels, locking the entire structure together with a stability that has endured for millennia. Beyond the grand circle of sarcens lies a subtler yet equally significant feature, a ring of 56 chalk-filled pits known as the Aubrey Holes, named after the 17th century antiquarian John Aubrey who first identified them. While their exact purpose remains one of Stonehenge's many-layered mysteries, they are believed to be among the very first elements constructed at the site. They may have held wooden posts or bluestones in an earlier phase of the monument, serving as a primitive astronomical calculator. Some researchers propose that markers moved from hole to hole could have been used to predict lunar eclipses, a stunning demonstration of Neolithic intellectual achievement. The discovery of cremated human remains in some of these holes also suggests they functioned as part of a vast burial ground, linking the monument to rituals of death, ancestry, and the journey into the afterlife from its very inception. All of this intricate construction leads the eye and the cosmos to one singular point, the heel stone. This large, unworked block of Sarsen sandstone, Stands Chinese letter outside the entrance to the earthwork avenue leading to Stonehenge. Its name is likely a corruption of an old Welsh word meaning to incline, and its purpose was profoundly celestial. During the summer solstice, the longest day of the year, an observer standing within the stone circle would witness the sun rise directly over the tip of the heel stone, its rays flooding down the avenue and into the sacred center of the monument. This was no accident. The builders positioned this stone with incredible precision to act as a permanent foresight, a fixed gun sight on the horizon that marked the sun's most northerly rising point. This alignment transformed the entire complex from a static arrangement of rocks into a dynamic cosmic clock, a temple designed to capture a specific moment of celestial power. Now close your eyes and envision this place not as a ruin, but as it was meant to be experienced. Picture a clear, cool night on the Salisbury Plain, the moon high and full, its silver light casting long, deep shadows from the great stones. The air is still, filled with a profound silence broken only by the distant call of a night bird. As the moon reaches its zenith, its light streams through the perfectly spaced arches of the tallest trilithons, creating patterns on the sacred ground within. For the people who built this, it was a place of ultimate connection, where the earth met the sky, where the cycles of time were made visible, and where the community gathered to reaffirm their place in the vast, orderly, and beautiful universe. This profound sense of wonder, of being part of something infinitely larger than oneself, is the true legacy of Stonehenge, a feeling that transcends the centuries and invites us simply to marvel. Yet the silent, ordered mystery of Stonehenge is rivaled only by a creation of an entirely different nature, one that sprawls across a vast desert canvas and can only be truly comprehended from the heavens themselves. We journey now from the green plains of England to the stark, arid pampas of southern Peru, where one of the world's most perplexing artistic enigmas awaits: the Nazca Lines. Etched into the dark, sun-baked desert pavement are hundreds of immense geoglyphs, straight lines running for miles, perfect geometric shapes including immense triangles and trapezoids, and spectacular figures of animals and plants. There is a hummingbird, its wings extended in delicate detail, a spider, its legs perfectly proportioned, a monkey with an elaborately curled tail. These are not small carvings, they are monumental works of art on a scale that defies easy understanding, with some figures stretching over 1,200 feet long, visible in their entirety only from the air. The sheer size and precision of these creations, made by a people who themselves could never have seen the full picture, presents a mystery that has captivated and bewildered the world for decades. The method of their creation is a testament to simple yet brilliant engineering. The Nazca people, who flourished between 200 BC and 600 CE, did not construct these lines by piling stones, instead they removed them. The desert floor here is not sand, but a layer of dark, rust-colored pebbles coated in desert varnish, which sits atop a lighter-colored subsoil. By carefully removing the top 12 to 15 inches of these dark stones and piling them to the sides of the designs, the Nazca exposed the contrasting light earth beneath. This technique created crisp, clear lines that have endured for nearly 2,000 years. The region's extraordinary stability is key to their preservation. One of the driest and most windless places on Earth, the Nazca Desert experiences virtually no erosion. A line cleared of stones 2 millennia ago remains cleared today, a frozen moment of ancient intention perfectly preserved under the relentless Peruvian sun. The tools required were simple wooden stakes, ropes, and an immense amount of coordinated labor. But the vision and planning needed to execute such massive, precise figures on an unseeable scale is what truly staggers the modern mind. This leads us to the central, tantalizing question: why were they made? For whom was this art intended, if not for human eyes on the ground? The most widely accepted theory, championed by the pioneering researcher Maria Reich, is that the lines held profound astronomical and ceremonial significance. She proposed that many of the long, straight lines aligned with the rising and setting points of the sun, moon, and significant stars on the horizon during solstices and equinoxes, effectively turning the entire desert into a giant celestial calendar. The animal figures, she suggested, may have represented constellations important to the Nazca worldview. This was not merely an observatory, but a sacred landscape where priests could walk the lines, performing rituals to petition the gods who controlled the weather, a matter of life and death in such an arid environment. The geometric shapes, particularly the long, narrow trapezoids, may have served as ceremonial pathways where processions would walk toward a central point, perhaps an altar, to make offerings for water and fertile crops. Another compelling theory suggests the lines were part of an elaborate water cult. Despite the surface dryness, the Nazca region sits above a complex underground aquifer system. The trapezoids and other large shapes often point directly toward sources of water in the distant mountains, acting as giant arrows or markers for this most precious resource. Some researchers have even found that the endpoints of certain lines correspond with ancient, man-made wells called puquios. In this interpretation, the creation of the lines was a form of sympathetic magic, a desperate and hopeful plea to the mountain deities to release the life-giving water from below. The animal figures themselves may have been chosen for their connection to water. The hummingbird, for instance, is a creature known to appear before the arrival of rains. Of course, the most famous and sensational theory is the work of Swiss author Erich von Däniken, who in the 1960s proposed the lines were landing strips or navigational markers for extraterrestrial spacecraft. While this idea captured the public imagination, it is overwhelmingly dismissed by archaeologists. It not only ignores the sophisticated cultural context of the Nazca people, but also unnecessarily complicates a phenomenon that can be explained through known human ingenuity and spiritual belief. The true wonder of the Nazca lines is not that aliens might have made them, but that humans did a civilization without aerial perspective, without modern technology, orchestrated a work of art so vast its full beauty was a secret they could only hold in their collective mind's eye, a gift intended for the gods they believed watched from above. As you drift towards sleep, picture this vast, open-air temple from a bird's-eye view, a testament to human faith and creativity that remains one of our planet's most breathtaking and enduring riddles. But perhaps the most enduring testament to the Nazca achievement is their sheer longevity. How have these fragile designs, merely scraped into the desert surface, survived for nearly 2,000 years? The answer lies in a perfect, almost miraculous confluence of geology and climate. The Nazca Desert is one of the driest places on Earth, receiving less than an inch of rain per year. This extreme aridity means there is virtually no water erosion to wash away the carefully arranged stones. Furthermore, the unique soil composition plays a crucial role. The surface is covered in a layer of dark, iron oxide-coated pebbles. When the Nazca removed these to expose the lighter, clay-rich soil beneath, the sun's intense heat baked this exposed earth into a hard, waterproof crust, effectively cementing the lines in place and protecting them from the wind. The very lack of wind itself is another guardian. The Pampas sits in a natural wind shadow between the Andes Mountains and the Pacific Ocean, creating an astonishingly stable environment where a line cleared centuries ago remains undisturbed today. It's as if the desert itself agreed to become a permanent museum for this ancient art. Now, let your mind drift high above this moonlit landscape. Picture yourself soaring silently, the cool night air rushing past as the full moon casts its silvery glow across the vast desert canvas below. From this vantage point, the lines transform. The individual stones and pathways merge into coherent, breathtaking shapes. A colossal monkey with a spiraling tail emerges from the shadows. A graceful hummingbird, its wings perfectly still in flight, seems to hover over the earth. The long, straight lines race toward the horizon, converging on distant mountain peaks where water was believed to originate. This perspective reveals the true genius and the profound mystery. The Nazca could never have seen their work from this angle. They held the entire, intricate design in their collective imagination, translating a grand vision onto a landscape scale using nothing but simple tools, meticulous planning, and an unwavering faith in the significance of their task. Their art was a prayer made visible, a message inscribed into the very skin of the earth, intended not for their own eyes, but for the deities they believed resided in the sky above. While the Nazca crafted their messages for the gods in the desert sun, another legend speaks of a civilization that returned its entire masterpiece to the sea, vanishing beneath the waves and leaving behind only a story that has refused to die. Our journey now dives into the deepest and most enduring mystery of all, the lost city of Atlantis. Unlike the stone ruins and desert lines we've explored, Atlantis exists primarily in the realm of story, a phantom empire first described by the ancient Greek philosopher Plato around 360 BC. He did not present it as a myth, but as a historical account passed down through generations, a cautionary tale of a mighty nation that fell out of favor with the gods. In his dialogues Timaeus and Critias, Plato paints a vivid picture of a sophisticated island kingdom, located beyond the Pillars of Hercules, what we now know as the Strait of Gibraltar, placing it firmly in the Atlantic Ocean. This was no ordinary place. It was a concentric rings of land and water, a marvel of engineering with a grand capital city at its heart, constructed from exotic red, white, and black stone. The Atlanteans were a powerful and technologically advanced race, Poseidon's descendants, who eventually became corrupted by their own ambition and greed. Their downfall, according to Plato, was swift and divine. In a single day and night of catastrophic earthquakes and floods, the entire island was swallowed by the ocean, disappearing without a trace. For centuries, scholars have debated whether Plato was recording a genuine historical disaster, perhaps based on a faded cultural memory of a real event, or if he was simply using a powerful allegory to illustrate his philosophical points about the dangers of arrogance and the ideal state. The fact that no other ancient Greek writer of his time mentions Atlantis suggests it may have been a literary device. Yet, the sheer detail in his description, the specific dimensions of the rings, the materials used, the genealogy of its kings, lends it an air of authenticity that continues to fuel the search. The most compelling real-world event often linked to the legend is the catastrophic volcanic eruption on the island of Thera, modern-day Santorini, around 1600 BC. This cataclysm was one of the largest volcanic events in human history, utterly devastating the sophisticated Minoan civilization on Crete with massive tsunamis and ash fall. The Minoans, with their advanced palace complexes and sprawling maritime empire, certainly fit the description of a great civilization that met a sudden, dramatic end. However, Thera is in the Mediterranean, not the Atlantic, leading some to propose that Plato's geographical reference was either mistaken or deliberately altered. This geographical puzzle has ignited a firestorm of speculation, sending explorers and researchers scouring the globe for potential locations. The Mediterranean itself offers several candidates besides Thera. Some theories point to the Spottlbank, a sunken island just west of the Strait of Gibraltar that was above water during the last ice age, perfectly matching Plato's description of a location just beyond the Pillars. Others have looked to the islands of Cyprus or Malta, or even the coast of Spain, where a marshy region known as the Marisma de Hinojos is said to contain the remnants of circular structures. Further afield, the Caribbean has been proposed, with the Bimini Road, a submerged line of limestone blocks off the coast of the Bahamas, often cited as a potential piece of Atlantean architecture, though geologists largely attribute it to natural bicroc formation. More fringe theories have placed Atlantis in the North Sea, off the coast of Cuba, or even in Antarctica, each interpretation stretching the available evidence to fit a captivating narrative. This global search highlights not a scientific consensus, but the incredible power of the story itself. We see what we want to see in the ocean's depths, projecting our own sense of wonder onto every unexplained sonar blob and unusual rock formation. So why, after 2,400 years, does the search for Atlantis continue with such passion? The answer lies in the profound human needs the story fulfills. It taps into a universal fascination with catastrophe and ruin, the romantic allure of a golden age lost to time. It represents the ultimate archaeological treasure hunt, a puzzle that promises to rewrite history if only we can find the final piece. On a deeper level, Atlantis serves as a powerful metaphor. It is a warning about the hubris of civilization, a mirror reflecting our own fears about environmental collapse, technological overreach, and the fragile nature of our own societies. In every era, we reinterpret the myth to suit our contemporary anxieties. The idea of a sunken, advanced civilization with technology, perhaps even surpassing our own, sparks the imagination, suggesting that history is not a straight line of progress but a cycle of rise and fall, and that we too might be vulnerable to a forgotten fate. It is a story that belongs to everyone and no one, a blank canvas upon which we can project our greatest hopes and darkest fears. As you drift toward sleep, let your mind wander through those silent, watery halls. Picture the grand canals and gleaming temples not as they might have been, but as a symbol of all that is beautiful and transient. The true power of Atlantis is not in its discovery, but in its endless possibility. It is a dream of the deep, a reminder that the past still holds secrets, and that the great, unexplored expanse of the ocean and our own history will always have room for one more wonderful, unsolved mystery. Whether the story of Atlantis was a philosophical parable or a distorted memory of a real event, its power endures because it touches upon a universal human experience, the fear of cataclysm and the loss of great knowledge. This theme resonates far beyond a single Greek dialogue, echoing in the geological record and in the foundational stories of cultures across the globe. Evidence of profound, civilization-altering disasters is written into the very layers of the Earth. The volcanic eruption on Thera, for instance, was a cataclysm of almost unimaginable scale, estimated to be 4 times more powerful than the eruption of Krakatoa. It obliterated the Minoan settlement on the island, sending tsunamis radiating across the Aegean Sea that would have devastated coastal communities on Crete and beyond. Ashfall buried the city of Akrotiri so completely that it was preserved in a state of suspended animation, much like Pompeii centuries later, offering archaeologists a frozen snapshot of a sophisticated Bronze Age society interrupted mid-breath. This single geological event provides a tangible, horrific blueprint for how advanced maritime culture could indeed be erased from the map in a day and a night of fire and water, providing a plausible historical kernel for Plato's tale. This notion of a great flood is not unique to the Greeks. It is perhaps the most common thread in the tapestry of world mythology, suggesting a shared, deep-seated memory of primordial disaster. In the ancient Mesopotamian epic of Gilgamesh, the hero Utnapishtim is instructed by the god E to build a great boat to survive a deluge sent by the disgruntled god Enlil. The story is strikingly similar to the later biblical account of Noah, who also builds an ark to preserve life from a world-engulfing flood as divine punishment. These narratives appear in the Americas too, with the Maya recounting the story of a great flood that ended the previous world age. Hindu texts describe the avatar Matsya, a giant fish, who warns the sage Manu of an impending deluge and guides his ship to safety. The prevalence of these stories from every corner of the ancient world points to a fascinating possibility. While they are certainly powerful moral allegories about divine displeasure and rebirth, they may also be fragmented cultural memories of very real post-Ice Age sea level rise. As glaciers melted between 15 and 7,000 years ago, coastlines changed dramatically, swallowing vast stretches of inhabited land and forcing populations to migrate. For the people living through it, it would have truly seemed as if the world was being flooded by the gods, an event so traumatic it was woven into their most sacred stories for thousands of years. The relentless pursuit of a physical Atlantis, then, tells us less about the ancient world and more about our own enduring curiosity and our desire to find meaning in the shadows of the past. This search is a powerful driver of exploration and discovery. The very idea of a lost, advanced civilization has inspired countless expeditions, pushing the boundaries of underwater archaeology and remote sensing technology. In trying to find Atlantis, we have instead discovered real sunken cities, like the ancient Egyptian city of Thonis Heracleion, which sank into the Mediterranean over 1,000 years ago and was only rediscovered in 2000. The legend pushes us to look deeper, to question accepted history, and to wonder what other secrets the ocean floor might hold. It satisfies a deep human need for mystery, for the possibility that history is grander and more dramatic than the fragments we have in museums. It is a testament to our imagination, our refusal to accept that the story is complete, and our innate belief that there were once giants on the earth whose accomplishments rivaled or even surpassed our own. So as you prepare to drift into sleep, let the rational search and the geological evidence fade into the background. Instead, allow yourself to simply feel the myth. Picture the warm, sun-dappled waters of the Atlantic, and far below, the gentle, eternal currents moving through the silent streets of a magnificent sunken city. Faint outlines of white and red stone structures, now adorned with coral and swaying seagrasses, stand as monuments to a forgotten age. Schools of silver fish drift through what was once a grand central plaza, and a solitary sea turtle glides over a crumbled temple roof. There is no need for proof here, only the quiet, comforting poetry of the idea itself, a lost world sleeping beneath the waves, a permanent reminder of the beauty of mystery and the timeless human urge to dream of what might have been. But as we contemplate grand cities lost to the sea, we are reminded that not all ancient wonders were lost to catastrophe. Some were simply lost to time, hidden away in the quiet darkness of a shipwreck for millennia, only to reveal a technological marvel that would force us to completely rewrite our understanding of the ancient world. Our journey now takes us from the depths of myth to the depths of the Aegean Sea, just off the coast of the tiny Greek island of Antikythera. In the year 1900, sponge divers seeking shelter from a storm stumbled upon the wreck of a Roman cargo ship, its hull filled with stunning bronze and marble statues. But among these more expected treasures, they recovered a lump of heavily corroded bronze and wood that seemed so unremarkable it was almost overlooked. It was only months later, as the object dried and began to crack apart, that an archaeologist noticed something extraordinary hidden inside. A series of intricate gear wheels, precisely cut and arranged in a complex configuration. This was no mere statue, it was a machine. A device so anachronistically advanced that it would take over a century of study to even begin to comprehend its purpose. We now know it as the Antikythera mechanism, and it has rightly earned the title of the world's first known analog computer. The complexity of this device is nothing short of breathtaking. Housed in a wooden case roughly the size of a large shoebox, the mechanism was operated by a hand crank on the side. Turning this crank would set in motion at least 30 precisely interlocked bronze gear wheels, each tooth carefully hand-cut to mesh with its neighbors. These gears drove a series of over 30 hands or pointers on at least 7 different dials on the front and back of the case. Through a sophisticated system of differential gearing, a technology we thought was invented in the 16th century, these pointers moved across the dials to track the complex motions of the Sun, the Moon, and the 5 planets known to the ancient Greeks: Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. It could predict their positions in the sky for any given date, accounting for their irregular retrograde motions that had puzzled astronomers for centuries. It was a portable, mechanical simulation of the entire known cosmos, a celestial prediction machine built over 2,000 years ago, but its functions went far beyond simple planet tracking. Inscriptions on the device's casing, painstakingly deciphered using advanced 3-dimensional X-ray tomography, reveal it was also a sophisticated calendar. It could show the phase of the moon on any given day, displayed through a beautiful, rotating black and white sphere. It could predict lunar and solar eclipses, not just when they would occur, but their exact time, direction, and even the color and magnitude of the eclipse, information considered vitally important for omens. One of its most astonishing dials was a 4-year cycle that tracked the timing of the ancient Olympic Games and other Panhellenic festivals, acting as a complete chronological register for the most important cultural and athletic events in the Greek world. This was not merely a scientific instrument, it was a unified repository of astronomical, calendrial, and cultural knowledge, a single device that connected the movements of the heavens with the rhythm of human life on Earth. The existence of such a device forces a profound reassessment of ancient technological capability. For centuries, the prevailing view of the classical world was one of philosophical and artistic genius, but limited mechanical ingenuity. The Antikythera mechanism shatters that illusion. Its design implies a deep understanding of gearing principles, astronomical cycles, and precision metalworking that we simply did not attribute to that era. It stands as a solitary, stunning survivor, but it is almost certain that it was not unique. The ancient texts of Cicero describe a similar device brought to Rome by the philosopher Posidonius in the 1st century BCE, which showed the movements of the sun, moon, and planets. Another legend speaks of a similar globe created by the great Archimedes himself. The Antikythera mechanism was likely not a one-off masterpiece, but a prime example of a known, if exceedingly rare, tradition of high Greek technology. Its sophistication suggests a lost history of mechanical engineering, a school of thought that combined theoretical mathematics with breathtaking craftsmanship, whose other works were likely melted down for their bronze or simply crumbled to dust, leaving this one example to whisper of their existence from the bottom of the sea. So as you drift tonight, picture not the silent stones of a temple, but the gentle, precise turning of bronze gears in a wooden box. Imagine a Greek scholar on a starlit night, turning the crank of this device to see what the heavens would look like a month, a year, or a decade into the future. The Antikythera mechanism is a powerful testament to the fact that the drive to understand our universe, to model it and predict its behavior, is a human constant. It connects us directly to the mind of its creator, a genius whose name is lost to history, but whose brilliance was so profound that it would take us 2,000 years to catch up. Its silent, intricate dance of metal is a humbling and beautiful reminder that the past is always more surprising, more inventive, and more wondrous than we can possibly imagine. The level of craftsmanship embedded within the Antikythera mechanism is nothing short of extraordinary. Each of its at least 30 interlocking bronze gears was meticulously hand-cut, with teeth shaped and angled to mesh with perfect precision. These were not crude, simple sprockets. They were complex, differential gears, a technology so advanced that historians believed it was an invention of the 16th century, not the 1st century BC. The largest gear, clearly visible on one of the surviving fragments, boasts 223 teeth, each one needing to be filed with absolute accuracy to ensure the entire system would function without seizing. This was a device built not just for show, but for rigorous, repeated use, its tiny axles and pinions moving within their wooden frame with a smoothness that speaks to a master metalsmith's touch, a level of miniaturization and precision we would expect from a fine Swiss watchmaker, not an ancient Mediterranean workshop. This mechanical brilliance, however, was merely the physical expression of a far deeper intellectual achievement. The true miracle of the device lies in the profound astronomical knowledge its design required. To program this machine, its creator needed an incredibly accurate understanding of celestial cycles. The mechanism perfectly models the Metonic cycle, a period of 19 years after which the phases of the moon repeat on the same calendar dates. It incorporates the Callippic cycle, a refinement of the Metonic cycle spanning 76 years. It even accounts for the Saros cycle, a period of roughly 18 years and 11 days used to predict eclipses, and the even more precise Exeligmos cycle, which triples the Saros to provide the exact timing and nature of an eclipse. These are not simple observations. They are the result of centuries of precise Babylonian and Greek astronomical record-keeping, translated into a complex mathematical language of gear ratios. One specific gear train, with its prime number of 127 teeth, was designed to calculate the moon's irregular orbit, a subtle wobble known as lunar anomaly. This means the maker didn't just know the heavens moved, they understood the precise, often imperfect mathematics behind those movements, and they found a way to embody those equations in spinning bronze. This combination of theoretical genius and mechanical artistry makes the mechanism's solitary survival all the more poignant, forcing us to confront a haunting historical question. Why did such groundbreaking technology seemingly vanish for over a millennium? We have no record of anything remotely similar appearing again until the astronomical clocks of medieval Europe. The most likely explanation is a tragic confluence of lost knowledge and shifting priorities. The high-level craftsmanship required to build such devices would have been a specialized, secretive art, likely confined to a small school of thinkers and engineers, perhaps in the great academic center of Rhodes. As the Roman Empire absorbed the Greek world, the focus of patronage and interest may have shifted away from such intricate scientific wonders toward more practical military or civil engineering. The intellectual framework needed to understand and maintain the mechanism could have easily been lost within a few generations, its secrets dying with its last caretakers. Furthermore, the valuable bronze it was made from was always a target for recycling. Most other examples were probably melted down for coins or weapons, their genius unrecognized by those who saw only scrap metal. The Antikythera mechanism only survived this fate because it was lost at sea, hidden away in the dark, cold silence that preserved it for 2,000 years. Now close your eyes and try to picture the scene. Imagine a learned scholar in a sunlit room in ancient Rhodes or Alexandria, the wooden case of the mechanism resting on a table. They slowly turn the hand crank on the side, and as they do, a tiny, perfect model of the cosmos comes to life. Pointers sweep across dials inscribed with the names of the planets and the signs of the zodiac. A small, mesmerizing ball, half black and half silver, rotates to show the exact phase of the moon. They can calculate the date of the next Olympic Games or predict a solar eclipse years in advance. For them, this was not a mysterious artifact. It was the pinnacle of human knowledge, a testament to the power of the human mind to discern order in the vast, chaotic dance of the heavens. It represents a path not taken, a glimpse of an ancient scientific revolution that flickered brilliantly for a moment before being swallowed by the shadows of history, leaving behind a single, corroded clue to a world far more technologically curious and capable than we ever dreamed. While the Antikythera mechanism represents a pinnacle of ancient scientific understanding, another artifact from the past stands as a monument to pure, impenetrable mystery, a book that refuses to reveal its secrets. Tucked away in the vault of Yale University's Beinecke Rare Book and Manuscript Library is a work that has baffled cryptographers, linguists, and historians for over a century, the Voynich manuscript. This is not your average ancient text. It is a complete anomaly. Composed somewhere in the early 15th century, likely in Central Europe, the manuscript is 240 pages of dense, flowing text written in a script that matches no known alphabet or language on Earth. Its pages are filled with bizarre, colorful illustrations that only deepen the enigma. Drawings of unidentifiable plants with strange roots and leaves, astronomical charts featuring unfamiliar constellations, intricate diagrams of celestial spheres, and perhaps most famously, countless pages depicting plump, naked women bathing together in a network of interconnected green pools and tubes. From the moment it was rediscovered in 1912 by a Polish book dealer named Wilfred Voynich, this book has been a siren call for those who believe they can crack its code, yet it has resisted every single attempt, earning its reputation as the most mysterious book in the world. The immediate and obvious challenge is the text itself. The writing, now known as Voynichese, is composed of a unique set of between 23 and 30 distinct characters, arranged in a pattern that displays all the statistical properties of a real, natural language. The words follow a distinct structure, with certain characters appearing only at the beginnings or ends of words, much like prefixes and suffixes in known languages. The text is not random gibberish, it has a recognizable rhythm and repetition. This has led many to believe it is a cipher, a coded version of a known language like Latin or Hebrew. Over the decades, some of the world's top cryptographers, including teams from both world wars who successfully broke far more complex military codes, have turned their skills to the Voynich manuscript and failed utterly. More recently, sophisticated computer algorithms and artificial intelligence have been deployed to find patterns, to match the text to any known linguistic family, from European to Asian to even constructed languages. While these systems sometimes suggest a vague connection to Hebrew or Aramaic, no proposed translation has ever produced a single, coherent, verifiable sentence. The text remains a locked door, and despite 1,000 different keys being tried, none have turned the lock. The illustrations provide no clear answers, only more maddening questions. The botanical section, for instance, is filled with paintings of plants that are simultaneously detailed and utterly fantastical. Some leaves and roots seem vaguely familiar, reminiscent of known herbs like ginger or ginseng, but they are combined in ways that defy botany. A single root system might split into 3 different types of plant above the soil, or a flower might bloom with a structure that exists in no known genus. This has led to theories that the plants are either purely imaginary or that they represent a lost botanical tradition from a remote part of the world. The astronomical section is no less perplexing. It contains circular charts filled with stars and what appear to be suns and moons, arranged in medallions that some interpret as a representation of the zodiac. Yet the symbols and figures within these circles are unlike any classical European or Middle Eastern astronomical tradition. The bathing women section, often called the biological or balneological portion, is perhaps the most unusual. It shows groups of nude figures, mostly female, immersed in these green, tub-like structures connected by intricate plumbing, suggesting a mysterious ritual or a complex, pseudo-scientific understanding of the human body and perhaps a connection to alchemical processes. With the text unreadable and the pictures inexplicable, the theories about the manuscript's purpose have spiraled into the wonderfully creative and the utterly bizarre. The most enduring theory is that it is a medical or pharmaceutical text, a sort of forgotten herbal guide, with the strange plants representing remedies for various ailments and the bathing scenes illustrating therapeutic treatments. Another compelling idea is that it is a work of medieval proto-science, an attempt to document an entirely different understanding of biology, astronomy, and cosmology that was later lost to history. More skeptical scholars have proposed that it is an elaborate hoax, perhaps created in the 16th century to defraud a wealthy patron like the Holy Roman Emperor Rudolph II, who was known for his interest in the occult and for whom the manuscript might have been fabricated. However, recent carbon dating of the vellum to the early 15th century has largely discredited this later hoax theory, though it remains possible the book was a meaningless curiosity created by a clever forger of that earlier era. The most fantastical theories suggest it is the work of aliens or a relic from the lost continent of Atlantis, though these are dismissed by mainstream academics for a complete lack of evidence. So why, after all this time and with all our modern technology, does the Voynich manuscript remain stubbornly undeciphered? The answer may lie in its very uniqueness. If it is a cipher, it could be a type that is incredibly rare or one that was used only once, a cipher that requires a specific key text, another book that is now lost, to unlock it. Without that key, the code is essentially unbreakable. Alternatively, it might not be a cipher at all, but a written record of a constructed language, a personal idiolect invented by a single, isolated individual. If one person devised their own private language and writing system to record their unique thoughts, then the manuscript is essentially a locked diary for which there is no key, its meaning dying with its author. This would explain why its patterns resemble language but correspond to nothing we know. The most recent and controversial theory comes from a University of Bristol academic who suggested the text is actually a mostly meaningless series of glyphs that serve as mnemonic devices for a visual system of knowledge, a sort of memory palace in book form, with the true meaning contained only in the images. In this view, the words are not meant to be read phonetically but are visual triggers, making the search for a linguistic translation a fruitless endeavor from the start. There is a peculiar, soothing comfort in this ultimate unsolved puzzle. In a world where we are accustomed to having answers at our fingertips, the Voynich manuscript is a permanent reminder that some mysteries are meant to endure. It is an artifact of pure potential, a book that contains every possible story because it contains none. As you drift towards sleep, let your mind wander through its strange, beautiful pages. Picture the unknown author hunched over a desk by candlelight, carefully drawing those unearthly plants and star charts, transcribing a thought process we will never fully comprehend. The manuscript is not a problem to be solved, but a dream to be visited, a silent, captivating promise that the past will always hold onto a few of its secrets, inviting us to wonder and then to rest. Turning the pages from the cryptic text to the illustrations only deepens the enigma, presenting a visual world that is both meticulously detailed and utterly alien. The largest section of the manuscript is devoted to botany, filled with vibrant paintings of plants that are the source of endless fascination and frustration. Each page showcases a different specimen, drawn with a naturalist's attention to the vein patterns on leaves and the textures of roots, yet they are combinations that defy all known botany. You might see a flower with a blossom that seems familiar, like a pansy or a violet, but it grows from a root system that belongs to a completely different family, perhaps a tuber like a potato or a rhizome like ginger. Some plants have leaves that split into 3 distinct shapes on the same stem, or a single root that branches into 2 entirely different types of flora above the soil line. It creates an unsettling feeling of almost recognition, as if you're looking at a dream of a herbal manual where known elements have been rearranged by a subconscious mind. The most plausible theory is that these represent a lost, symbolic herbal tradition, where each plant is an allegory for a concept or ingredient in an alchemical process, its physical form altered to represent its spiritual or medicinal property rather than its real-world appearance. Alternatively, they could be purely fantastical inventions, a medieval artist's imagination given free rein on the page, creating a field guide to a kingdom that never existed. Beyond the strange garden lies the cosmic section, a series of circular diagrams that seem to chart the heavens. These are not the familiar constellations of Ptolemy or the clear zodiac signs of European tradition. Instead, we find intricate circular medallions filled with stars, each one connected by lines that might represent celestial pathways or relationships. Some of these diagrams feature what appear to be suns and moons with expressive, almost human faces, radiating lines of light. One of the most famous pages contains a large, complex diagram often called the rosette foldout, a multi-paneled illustration that some interpret as a map of the universe itself, showing concentric rings of different realms or perhaps a cosmological chart of creation. The astronomical pages suggest the author was working within a framework of understanding entirely separate from the mainstream Western astronomy of the time. It could be a representation of a forgotten folk tradition, a unique personal cosmology, or perhaps an attempt to illustrate an astrological or alchemical concept where the stars influence the terrestrial world in ways we no longer comprehend. These aren't just decorative star charts, they feel like a functional, though now indecipherable, model of someone's universe. Perhaps the most famously bizarre illustrations are found in the section often referred to as balneological or concerning baths. Here, the pages are filled with drawings of plump, nude women, most of them appearing relaxed and serene, immersed in a bizarre network of green, tub-like pools and intricate, winding pipes that resemble an organic plumbing system. The women are often shown in groups, sometimes wearing crowns or hats, and the green tubes connect the various baths, suggesting a flow of liquid, perhaps water, or something more symbolic like prima materia or the elixir of life from alchemical texts. This has led to interpretations that this section depicts a complex pseudo-scientific health ritual, a form of hydrotherapy for the soul as much as the body. The interconnected baths could represent a diagram of the human circulatory system or a metaphorical chart of spiritual purification, where the soul is cleansed by moving through different stages. In the context of medieval alchemy, which was deeply concerned with transformation and purification, these scenes could symbolize the various stages of the magnum opus, the great work of turning base metals into gold, which was also an allegory for spiritual enlightenment. Though women are not depicted in a scandalous way for the era, they are integral, active participants in a process that was clearly of profound importance to the author, even if its true meaning is locked away behind the undeciphered text that surrounds them. One can only imagine the scene of its creation. Picture a quiet scriptorium in the 15th century, the air thick with the smell of vellum and ink. A lone scribe, or perhaps a small group, works by the flickering light of a candle or a small window. Their hands are stained with pigments ground from minerals and plants, the green from malachite, the blue from azurite, the red from cinnabar. They are utterly absorbed in their task, not of copying a known text, but of bringing this unique vision to life. Every strange plant, every enigmatic star chart, every peculiar bathing figure is drawn with immense care and conviction. Were they transcribing from another, even older source that is now lost to us? Were they compiling the secret knowledge of a hidden esoteric tradition, encoding it in images and cipher to protect it from a hostile world? Or was this the life's work of a solitary genius or a madman, creating a personal universe of symbolism and belief, a window into a singular, brilliant, and utterly isolated mind? The dedication required is staggering. This was not a quick doodle or a frivolous distraction. It represents hundreds, if not thousands, of hours of painstaking labor, a monumental investment of time and resources for a book that was never meant to be widely understood. The very existence of such a beautiful, complex, and mysterious object is a testament to the powerful human drives to create, to record, and to wonder, even if we are the only ones who will ever see it. While the silent pages of the Voynich manuscript guard the secrets of a single intellect, the peat bogs of Northern Europe hold a far more visceral and widespread mystery, preserving not ideas but people. Across Denmark, Germany, Ireland, and the United Kingdom, these cold, waterlogged, and acidic wetlands have yielded one of archaeology's most haunting treasures, the bog bodies. These are not skeletons, but nearly complete human individuals, their skin tanned to dark leather, their features often eerily recognizable, their last meals still in their stomachs. The chemical magic of the sphagnum moss creates an environment that halts bacterial decay, leaving behind a stunningly intimate, if unsettling, snapshot of life and death in the Iron Age over 2,000 years ago. The most famous, like Tollund man from Denmark, looks so peaceful in his repose he could simply be sleeping, a faint stubble still on his chin, a leather cap pulled snugly on his head. Yet this tranquility is a cruel illusion, for the circumstances of their deaths were almost universally brutal, a fact preserved with horrifying clarity, pulling us into a world of ritual, violence, and belief that we can only begin to decipher. The state of preservation is so complete that it allows for forensic analysis of a kind usually impossible with ancient remains. We know what Tollund man's last meal was: a simple porridge of barley, flax, and seeds, eaten 12 to 24 hours before he died. We can see the carefully styled hair of Cloncavan man from Ireland, held in place with a gel made from imported pine resin, suggesting a person of some status. We can observe the manicured, well-cared, for hands of Id girl from the Netherlands, which showed no signs of hard labor. This incredible detail makes their violent ends all the more poignant and perplexing. Tollund man was hanged, the noose still visible as a furrow in the skin of his neck. Grobel man, also from Denmark, had his throat slit from ear to ear with such force it nearly decapitated him. Old Croghan man from Ireland was stabbed, beheaded, and cut in half. This was not casual violence. The overkill and specific methods suggest something ritualistic, a formalized execution or a sacrifice that held deep meaning for the community that carried it out. So why were these people, some of whom seemed to be of high rank, chosen for such a fate? The leading theory points to ritual sacrifice, an offering to the gods to ensure fertility, a good harvest, or victory in battle. The bogs themselves were likely seen as liminal spaces, gateways between our world and the realm of the gods or ancestors. Depositing a valued offering into this watery, otherworldly landscape would have been a powerful act of communication with the divine. Some clues support this. Roman historians like Tacitus, writing about the Germanic tribes, described rituals where traitors and deserters were drowned in bogs as punishments, while other undesirables were sacrificed to Nerthus, a Mother Earth goddess, during fertility festivals. The fact that many bog bodies show signs of physical deformities or had objects like stones or branches placed on them could indicate they were considered deviant in some way, chosen as scapegoats to bear the community's sins or bad luck into the other world. A young man from Cahosen in Germany was found with his legs bound together, perhaps to symbolically restrain a malicious spirit believed to be within him. Yet the mystery is far from solved. Alternative theories suggest these individuals could have been executed criminals, victims of tribal warfare, or even social outcasts punished for transgressing societal norms. The line between judicial execution and religious sacrifice in the Iron Age was likely very blurry. A crime against the king or the tribe could also have been seen as a crime against the gods, requiring a ritualized death to restore cosmic order. The overkill seen on many bodies, the multiple wounds, the binding, the weighing down, might not have been just about ensuring death, but about ensuring the individual could not return from the bog to seek vengeance. It was a way to completely and utterly remove a person from the world of the living, both physically and spiritually. As you listen, picture the scene: a misty morning on the bog, a gathering of people witnessing a summer ceremony. There are chants, perhaps, or a solemn silence as a chosen individual is led to the water's edge, their fate sealed not by malice, but by a deep, ingrained belief system that saw this act as necessary for the survival of all. The bog was not a grave, but an altar. The unique chemistry of the peat bog is what grants us these intimate, frozen moments from the distant past. Sphagnum moss, the primary plant in these wetlands, is the silent architect of this preservation. As it grows, it absorbs immense amounts of water and releases acidic compounds called sphagnum, a specific type of tannin, into the bog. This creates a cold, waterlogged, oxygen-poor, and highly acidic environment where the bacteria responsible for decomposition simply cannot survive. The tannins act as a natural tanning agent, very much like the process used to create leather, slowly converting the skin and hair of a submerged body into a durable, dark brown material that can last for millennia. Meanwhile, the acidic water leaches calcium from the bones, leaving them soft and pliable, almost like cartilage, which is why so many bog bodies are found with their forms intact but their skeletons partially dissolved. It is a perfect, if gruesome, storm of natural conditions that halts time, preserving not just the physical form, but the most minute, heartbreaking details of a person's final hours. This remarkable process has safekept a collection of personal artifacts that offer precious glimpses into Iron Age life. Toland man was discovered with a simple leather belt around his waist and a pointed skin cap securely tied on his head. His most poignant accessory was the well-preserved leather noose still coiled around his neck, which had been carefully slipped off after his execution and placed beside him. Another Danish body, Elling woman, was found wrapped in a woolen cloak and a skin cape, her long hair braided into an elaborate and sophisticated hairstyle that spoke of care and status. In Ireland, Clonacavon man's hair was styled with a gel made from pine resin that had to be imported from what is now southwestern France or Spain, suggesting he was a person of significant wealth or importance. These are not just objects, they are intimate extensions of the people themselves. The food in their stomachs is often preserved as well, a final meal that can be analyzed to determine the season of their death. A porridge of winter grains points to a spring sacrifice, for instance. Each artifact, from a fragile hairpin to a last bowl of gruel, adds a brushstroke to the portrait of a living, breathing individual with a place in their community. Modern forensic science allows us to peer even deeper into these final moments, reconstructing a narrative written in the very tissues of their bodies. Computed tomography scans have revealed that Grorbal man, before his throat was savagely cut, suffered from a condition that would have left him in chronic pain, such as an abscessed tooth or arthritic joints. Was his sacrifice seen as a release from suffering, or did his ailment mark him as different, a suitable offering? The body of Girl, a teenager from the Netherlands, showed evidence of scoliosis, a curvature of the spine that would have given her an uneven gait. This physical difference might have singled her out in her village. The nature of their injuries is often shockingly clear. Old Croghan man from Ireland was stabbed, decapitated, and then ritually dismembered. His nipples were also cut, which in the Celtic world may have been a symbol of rendering him unfit to be a king, as kings were once suckled by the realm itself. This level of ritualized violence points to a death that was far more than mere punishment. It was a deeply symbolic act, a transaction with the gods that required a specific and terrible payment. Now, let your mind drift to those misty, moonlit bog landscapes that birthed and kept these secrets for so long. Picture the vast, flat expanse of peat, silvered by the moon, with pools of dark, still water reflecting the sky. A low fog clings to the ground, muting all sound, creating a world that feels entirely separate from our own. It is easy to understand why Iron Age people saw these places as sacred thresholds, liminal zones between the world of the living and the realm of the gods, ancestors, or spirits. To place a body in the bog was not to hide it, but to deliver it. The careful placement, the accompanying artifacts, and the specific manner of death all suggest a solemn ceremony conducted in this otherworldly space, a desperate attempt to influence the forces of nature, to ensure the sun would return, the crops would grow, and the tribe would survive. The bog was a silent, watchful witness to these acts of faith and fear, and it held its witnesses in a perfect, timeless embrace, waiting for us to finally come and listen to their stories. And yet, for all the tangible, physical mysteries preserved in bog and bronze, perhaps the most tantalizing enigma of all is one written on fragile metal, a map to a fortune that may never have existed. Found in a cave near Qumran in 1952, among the legendary Dead Sea Scrolls, the Copper Scroll stands utterly apart. While its companions are delicate manuscripts of parchment and papyrus, filled with sacred texts and sectarian rules, this document is something else entirely, 2 feet of oxidized copper engraved with a list. But this is no ordinary inventory. It is a cryptic, matter-of-fact catalogue of unimaginable wealth, a treasure map pointing to 64 different hiding places where vast quantities of gold, silver, precious ointments, and priestly vestments were supposedly secreted away. The amounts are staggering, almost comically so, listing over 4,600 talents of gold and silver, a sum that would be worth billions today and would have represented the entire treasury of the Roman Empire several times over. This is not a spiritual guide, it is a stark, practical set of instructions, a puzzle box cast in metal, waiting for someone to solve it. The mystery deepens when we consider the scroll's unique nature. Its language is a form of Hebrew, but it is rougher, more colloquial, and filled with Greek words for the measurements of weight and treasure, suggesting it was written by someone familiar with both cultures but not a master scribe. The instructions are frustratingly vague, pointing to locations like the ruin that is in the valley, the cistern of the man of the Beit Mashko, or the tomb of the Beni Hasserin. These names would have been common knowledge 2,000 years ago, but today they are ghosts, their meanings lost to the shifting sands and centuries of history. To make matters more perplexing, the copper itself was a deliberate choice. Unlike parchment, it was incredibly expensive and difficult to inscribe upon, requiring a hammer and chisel. The author went through this tremendous effort to create a permanent record, something that would not fade or decay, ensuring the locations of this colossal treasure would be remembered. This was a message meant to last for the ages, yet its meaning has become utterly inaccessible. Naturally, this has launched a century of treasure hunts, a real-world quest that feels like it's leaped from the pages of an adventure novel. Archaeologists, historians, and countless amateur sleuths have pored over the clues, attempting to match the descriptions to known geographical features around Qumran, Jerusalem, and the Judean desert. Some have dug at the base of specific waterfalls, investigated ancient cisterns, and scanned caves with ground-penetrating radar. A few tantalizing, small-scale discoveries have been made, like a handful of gold coins or ancient pottery, but nothing that even remotely approaches the scale of the treasure described. The sheer impossibility of the amounts listed has led many scholars to a fascinating conclusion. The treasure might be symbolic. Perhaps it doesn't refer to physical gold, but to the sacred vessels of the Jerusalem temple, looted by the Romans and whose return was fervently hoped for. Or maybe it represents a spiritual treasure, the vast wealth of wisdom and lore that the sect believed they possessed. In this reading, the Copper Scroll is not a map to a physical hoard, but a profound religious allegory, its value measured in faith, not currency. Yet the possibility of a literal, physical treasure has never completely faded. Another compelling theory suggests the scroll is a genuine record, but not of a single hoard. It may document the scattered wealth of the Essene community from Qumran, hidden in desperation as the Roman legions advanced to crush the Jewish revolt around 70 CE. Or it could be a record of the Second Temple's treasury, secreted away by priests to protect it from desecration. The problem is the geography. Many of the described locations are simply too far from Qumran for this to be a straightforward explanation. This has given rise to more speculative ideas, including the notion that the treasure was found long ago, perhaps by the Romans themselves or by medieval crusaders, and the scroll is simply the forgotten receipt. The most dramatic theory of all proposes that the treasure was never hidden in the Judean desert at all, but that the scroll's clues point to modern-day Jordan, a political reality that has made a thorough, large-scale search all but impossible. So we are left with this incredible object, a permanent record of a secret that refuses to be unlocked. It is a paradox, the most durable of the Dead Sea Scrolls, designed to withstand time, yet the one whose message has been most completely erased by it. As you drift towards sleep, let your mind wander through those dry, sun-baked canyons. Picture a lone figure 2,000 years ago, hammering a cryptic message into a sheet of copper, carefully rolling it up and sealing it in a cave, believing its meaning would be clear to those who came after. They could never have imagined that the landscape would forget its own names, that the valleys and ruins would become unrecognizable. The Copper Scroll is a different kind of mystery, not a forgotten technology or a lost city, but a failed communication, a letter addressed to the future that we can see but cannot read. Its true treasure may not be gold, but the endless, captivating dream of the search itself, a reminder that some maps lead not to a destination, but to a journey of perpetual wonder. The descriptions within the Copper Scroll are maddeningly specific yet frustratingly obscure, a series of riddles written not for us, but for a world 2,000 years removed. They speak of a landscape familiar to its author but now lost to time, directing the seeker to places like the ruin that is in the valley of Achor or the tomb of the Beni Hasserin. One instruction reads, "In the salt pit that is under the steps, 41 talents of silver." Another points to the gutter in the bathhouse of. The name unfortunately lost to a crack in the metal. These are not grand, monumental locations. They are intimate, everyday spots, cisterns, caves, tombs, and ruins, places known to a local community, perfect for a swift and secretive operation under the cloak of darkness. One can almost picture the scene, the panic as Roman legions advanced, the whispered consultations among temple priests or Essene leaders, and the desperate, moonlit journeys to stash away the most sacred and valuable objects of their culture, trusting that these vague geographic markers would be enough for a future generation to find them again. The quantities of treasure listed are so astronomically vast that they border on the unbelievable, pushing the scroll into the realm of legend. The text meticulously catalogues over 4,600 talents of gold and silver, alongside countless vessels, incense, and priestly vestments. To put that in perspective, a single talent was approximately 75 pounds. This means the scroll claims to document the hiding places of hundreds of thousands of pounds of precious metal, a hoard that would have dwarfed the entire treasury of a Roman province. The sheer scale is what has led many to dismiss the scroll as a work of folklore or religious allegory, a symbolic representation of spiritual wealth rather than a literal inventory. How could such an immense fortune, enough to bankroll an empire, have been accumulated and hidden by a small, ascetic community in the desert, or even by the temple priests in Jerusalem, without leaving a single trace in the historical record? The numbers seem to defy logic and economics, yet a compelling case can be made for its authenticity, and it hinges on the scroll's stark, practical nature. Unlike every other Dead Sea Scroll, which is a religious, legal, or literary text on parchment or papyrus, this is a list on durable metal. The choice of copper was expensive, difficult to inscribe, and intended for permanence. You don't go to that extraordinary effort to record a metaphor. The language itself is also telling. It is rough, functional, and administrative. It lacks the poetic or prophetic flourish of its companions. It reads like a straightforward set of instructions written by a practical-minded person who knew the locations intimately, for someone else who would also know the area. Furthermore, the list includes a second, duplicate copy of the first few entries, as if the author was ensuring that the most crucial part of the message would survive even if the beginning of the scroll was damaged. This is the behavior of a person documenting something real, not crafting a parable. Many archaeologists lean toward the theory that the treasure, while likely exaggerated in description, was indeed real. They propose that the scroll does not list a single king's ransom, but rather the collective, pooled wealth of the Essene community at Qumran, hidden as the Roman army marched toward them during the First Jewish Revolt. The described treasure might include the communal funds, sacred texts, and ritual objects vital to their identity and survival. Alternatively, it could be a partial record of the Second Temple's valuables, secretly dispersed by zealot priests or other groups to prevent their capture and desecration by the Romans. The vagueness of the locations then makes perfect sense. It was a necessary security measure. If the scroll had fallen into enemy hands, the descriptions were just obscure enough to be useless without local knowledge, yet clear enough to guide a trusted insider to the precise spot. This transforms the scroll from a fantasy map into a heartbreaking historical document, a last, desperate act of preservation from a civilization on the brink of annihilation. A message in a bottle that we can see but cannot fully understand, its coordinates erased by the very sands of time it was meant to defy. Our final mystery drifts from the arid deserts and deep bogs to the bustling heart of the ancient world, to a place that was not a tomb or a temple, but a temple of the mind, the legendary Library of Alexandria. Founded in the 3rd century BC in the Egyptian city that bore Alexander the Great's name, this was not merely a repository of scrolls, it was the greatest concentration of knowledge the ancient world had ever known, an audacious attempt to gather all human understanding under one roof. Imagine a complex attached to the royal palace, a sprawling institution called the Museum, or Temple of the Muses, where the greatest thinkers of the age were paid to live, study, and debate. At its heart was the library itself, a seemingly endless series of shelves and niches containing, by some estimates, over 500,000 scrolls. These were not just Greek texts, but works from every known culture: Persian, Indian, Hebrew, Babylonian, and Egyptian. The ambition was breathtakingly simple and impossibly grand: to collect every book in the world. What knowledge vanished when its scrolls turned to ash? The loss is so profound it's difficult to quantify. We know the library held foundational texts that are now just famous titles in history books. There were the complete works of the playwrights Aeschylus, Sophocles, and Euripides. We only have a fraction of their output today. There were historical accounts from Phoenician and Babylonian scholars that would have given us an entirely different perspective on the ancient Near East. Most tantalizingly, there were the works of the library's own scholars. This was the home of Euclid, who systematized geometry there, of Archimedes, who calculated pi and designed revolutionary machines, of Eratosthenes, who calculated the Earth's circumference with astonishing accuracy using little more than a stick and his intellect, and of Herophilus, a physician who conducted groundbreaking human dissections and mapped the nervous system. Their known works are revolutionary, but they undoubtedly wrote far more, their most advanced theories and observations now lost forever. The library was a living brain, and its destruction was a lobotomy on human history. The tragedy of its loss is compounded by the fact that there was no single catastrophic fire that destroyed it all in one night, as popular legend often suggests. The decline was a series of blows over centuries, a death by 1,000 cuts. The first major damage likely occurred in 48 BC when Julius Caesar was besieged in Alexandria. Ancient sources report he set fire to the Egyptian fleet in the harbor, and the flames spread to the city, potentially consuming a warehouse district where some scrolls were stored. While the main library complex probably survived, this event marked the beginning of the end. Later, during the Roman period, the library suffered from neglect and the shifting winds of political favor. Emperor Marcus Aurelius reportedly stopped the scholars' stipends. Then, in the 3rd century CE, the Emperor Aurelian sacked the city during a revolt, and the library district was likely ravaged in the fighting. The final, symbolic end is often attributed to the rise of Christianity. In the 4th century, the Coptic Christian Pope Theophilus ordered the destruction of the pagan temple of Serapis, which may have housed the last remaining daughter library. While the story of a zealous mob burning the library on the orders of a caliph in the 7th century is likely a later myth, it reflects the long, sad reality of a great institution slowly suffocating under the weight of religious intolerance, war, and simple, terrible neglect. The true cost of the Library of Alexandria is not just a list of lost books. It is the staggering delay it may have imposed on human progress. Think of the brilliant minds that followed the Dark Ages, the slow reawakening of the Renaissance. How many of those centuries of stagnation could have been avoided if that continuous thread of knowledge had not been severed? Would the science of Galileo and Newton have arrived 1,000 years earlier if they had been able to build upon the complete works of Archimedes instead of just a few fragments? The loss represents a profound what-if for our species. It is a permanent reminder of the fragility of knowledge, that every great discovery, every hard-won insight can be erased by fire, by fanaticism, or by simple apathy. The library's fate teaches us that civilization is not a steady, upward climb, but a precarious flame that must be constantly guarded and fed, lest it flicker and die, leaving us to rediscover in darkness what was once known in the light. As you settle into sleep tonight, let your mind wander through those silent, phantom halls. Picture the endless shelves, the quiet scholars, the accumulated wisdom of the ancient world, all now return to the air as whispers and smoke. There is a deep, melancholic poetry in that loss, a humbling acknowledgement of how much we will never know. But there is also a quiet comfort, for the story of the Library of Alexandria is not just a tale of destruction. It is a permanent testament to the human spirit's relentless drive to know, to understand, and to preserve. Its ghost challenges us to be the librarians of our own age, to cherish and protect the knowledge we have collectively built, ensuring that the light of understanding, once so nearly extinguished, continues to shine for all the generations yet to come. To appreciate the sheer magnitude of this intellectual endeavor, consider the monumental effort required simply to fill its shelves. The Ptolemaic kings who sponsored the library were not passive collectors. They were aggressively acquisitive, employing a policy that can only be described as bibliomania on a state-sponsored scale. Every ship that docked in the bustling port of Alexandria was boarded by royal officials who searched for scrolls. Any found were immediately confiscated and taken to the library, where armies of scribes would copy them meticulously. The originals were then stored in the Great Library's collection, while the copies were returned to the often unwilling original owners. The rulers even engaged in a form of intellectual espionage, sending agents abroad to borrow invaluable texts from other libraries, such as those in Athens and Rhodes, with a hefty security deposit. Once the precious scrolls arrived in Alexandria, however, they were simply kept, the deposit forfeited as a cost of doing the business of knowledge. This relentless and sometimes unethical drive to possess every written work created a repository that was the ancient equivalent of the entire internet, all contained within one complex and all curated by human hand. Within these hallowed halls, illuminated by the flickering light of countless oil lamps, worked a constellation of the ancient world's greatest minds. This was not merely a storage facility, it was the world's first true research institute, a think tank where scholars were paid a royal salary to do nothing but think, debate, and push the boundaries of human understanding. Here, the mathematician Euclid composed his Elements, the foundational text of geometry that would be used to teach logic and proof for over 2,000 years. The astronomer and geographer Eratosthenes served as the library's head librarian, and using little more than reports of the sun's angle in 2 different cities, calculated the Earth's circumference with an error margin of less than 2%. The physician Herophilus, working in the unique academic freedom the library provided, conducted groundbreaking human dissections and was the first to distinguish between arteries and veins and to identify the brain as the seat of intelligence. The air in these vast, scroll-lined halls would have hummed with the energy of discovery, with debates over the nature of the cosmos happening in one room while another scholar painstakingly translated a Babylonian astronomical text and a third drafted a revolutionary treatise on engineering. It was a symphony of intellect, each scholar a soloist contributing to a greater understanding of the universe. The tragedy of this great library is not that it was destroyed in a single, catastrophic inferno, as romantic legend often suggests, but that it suffered a long, slow, and agonizing death by 1,000 cuts over several centuries. The first major blow likely came from Julius Caesar himself in 48 BCE. During a civil war, Caesar found himself besieged in Alexandria and, in a tactical move, set fire to the Egyptian fleet in the harbor. Ancient historians like Plutarch and Seneca report that this fire spread into the city and consumed a warehouse district where a large number of scrolls were stored, perhaps as many as 40,000. While the main library complex probably survived, this event marked the beginning of its vulnerability. Subsequent centuries saw further decline through neglect, shifting political priorities, and more violence. During Emperor Aurelian's campaigns in the 3rd century CE, much of the Bruttian district where the main library stood was devastated. Then, with the rise of Christianity, the pagan knowledge housed in the library became a target. The Serapeum, a temple that likely held a daughter library, was destroyed on the orders of Theophilus, the Coptic Christian Pope of Alexandria, in 391 CE. The final symbolic end, often erroneously attributed to Muslim caliphs, was instead a slow suffocation, a demise caused by war, religious intolerance, and the simple, crushing weight of time, until the greatest storehouse of knowledge the world had ever known was reduced to memory, myth, and dust. As we conclude our journey through ancient mysteries, remember that history's unanswered questions invite us to wonder and imagine. These stories have accompanied us through the night, blending curiosity with calm and mystery with meditation. They are not problems demanding immediate solutions, but rather gentle companions for contemplation, each one a soft light in the vast darkness of the past, guiding us not toward answers but toward a deeper sense of peace. The true gift of these enigmas is their permanence. They remind us that the world remains full of wonder, that not every story has been fully told, and that it is perfectly all right to rest in the beautiful space of not knowing. Think of the silent, stoic gaze of the Great Sphinx, keeping its age-old secrets close, or the intricate bronze gears of the Antikythera mechanism, a testament to a brilliance we are still struggling to comprehend. Picture the vast, star-aligned plains of Stonehenge and the cryptic, sprawling lines of Nazca, monuments to faith and cosmic curiosity etched into the earth itself. These are not failures of archaeology, but its greatest triumphs, enduring reminders that our ancestors were every bit as complex, curious, and profound as we are. Their mysteries are a bridge across time, connecting our modern quest for understanding with their ancient yearning for meaning, allowing us to share in the same awe that they felt under a canopy of stars thousands of years ago. So as sleep gently claims you, let the weight of these mysteries settle not as a burden but as a comfort. Allow the silent halls of the Library of Alexandria, the submerged dreams of Atlantis, and the weathered pages of the Voynich manuscript to lull your mind into a state of tranquil acceptance. There is a profound rest to be found in releasing the need for certainty, in trading the day's demands for the night's grand, open-ended questions. Your curiosity has been the compass on this journey, and now let stillness be your anchor. May the echoes of these ancient wonders cradle you into a deep and restorative sleep, where the only thing you need to solve is the gentle puzzle of your own dreams. Thank you for wandering through the corridors of time with me. May your night be peaceful and your rest profound. Thank you for joining this historical journey toward rest. May these ancient mysteries drift through your dreams, and may you wake refreshed with new wonder about our fascinating past. Sweet dreams, time travelers, and pleasant historical ponderings until we meet again.